Good evening, everyone. This is Ron. The little PM. Hard to believe this year just started, but it's already the 10th of April. We're already in almost in mid-April. So how time how fast time is going. But let's start off with questions. See if we have any questions. On yesterday, we uh, spoke some from Jeremiah chapter 17. Pastor explained what was going on and um, brought it up to pretty much to verse 19 where we had started Saturday. So he started at verse 1 and brought it up to 19, and we had a discussion there on yesterday. So any questions on Jeremiah, or is there any questions on anything else, anything you may have observed, or any comments? No one? I have a couple of questions, I guess, and for Pastor, if he's on, or anyone, if you have some insight into this. Uh, a lot is going on right now. A lot of stuff is going on. We continuously see things on racism, and I saw an article earlier today about a company. I can't remember where they were based out of, but it was a tech company, and they were hiring for their Dallas plant, but they were looking for, I think, something, but the ad actually said uh, white only. They only wanted white candidates to apply. And of course, once everyone kind of balked at it, they took the ad down and apologized. But a lot of things are happening, a lot of boldness, a lot of racist things, a lot of separations, and, and a lot of energy that is just swirling out of control. And we're seeing all kinds of activity as far as violence, and another shooting in a mall. Another a young man uh, shot up a bank the other day as well. In fact, it was the bank he worked in. Uh, so just from these things, we talk about keeping our course, and the course being, of course, loving kindness and what we're doing, and growing in closer to self. But where are we with all this going on? Is this stuff a distraction? Is that part of the focus that we're supposed to be on, or where are we? What are you I guess I asked you guys before I asked Pastor to kind of summarize it for us. But where do you guys see all this? Where are we? Nobody thought about it.
Ron, this
What do
is
you think, man? Hey, Vanilla.
um I'm glad that we're having these types of discussions because there are times when I feel frustrated or um I wonder along the lines of why do we have to go through this? And I think this helps me to keep on track, not to let the distractions keep me from the direction I'm supposed to be moving. There's times when I feel like my path gets a little bit wobbly, but I like the fact that I have a time and space to go to kind of get me stepping, keep me stepping in the right direction, keep me moving forward, as opposed to getting caught up in the muck and mire and the
Yeah,
chaos.
and I agree with you, and I kind of sense that too when I read some of the stuff like where do we do where are we? Does this kind of stuff shake us? Uh, Pastor made a comment, several comments, and I want him to speak on, but one in particular, he talked about the fear and the worshiping of the European, and even the church and Christianity. And so, we these things were still uprooting in us. And I think these conversations in our studies 3 times a week kind of helps us reaffirm who we are. And I don't think we're wavering that way, that we think we're on the right path. I don't think that's the waver at all. I think the waver is almost this, all this stuff seems to overwhelm sometimes. It seems to be a lot, seems to be much. And I just want to talk about that a minute. But thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you.
What we are experiencing, as you said, a tremendous. We are experiencing a tremendous upheaval, and it's here because the universe has declared that it's time for things to change. Never in the history of this country, or the world for that matter, that all of the different things that we are witnessing, never has it taken place at one time. We would have things that pop up here and there, but not constantly, as we are experiencing today. The question becomes, why? The easy answer is because we desired it. But it is more in depth than that. It's not only because we desired it, it's also because we chose to stay the course without regard to what the consequences would be. The difficulty that we've had, and some are probably still experiencing, the reality of what enslavement or what Christianity has done to us. And probably there are those who are listening who are uncomfortable with the many discussions we have about enslavement, about the African, about the things that we were subjected to. It is impossible to discuss the scriptures without including those things. The reason it is impossible to discuss the scriptures without including those things is because all of the things that were perpetrated against us and anyone of color was based on the scriptures as interpreted by those who were brutalizing Africans in particular and people of color in general. Having said that, we have to look at Christianity, and I think it will give us a clearer understanding. Christianity is the reason that all of these things are happening. Christianity is being exposed for what it really is. Yesterday, people celebrated the resurrection without even knowing why the crucifixion took place. The understanding that I have gathered from studying Christianity from its roots and throughout history is the African and people of color have been trained to subconsciously worship that which is European or of European descent. And that continues to this day. Christianity was used to break our will, to destroy our culture, to rob us of our names, and to destroy any links that we had with those who are our forefathers in Africa. Christianity was used not only to do that, but also to justify slavery because of the lie that was told about Ham being cursed and all black people coming from Ham, which is very ignorant because if all black people came from Ham, then Ham must have had a black daddy, black mama. So where did Shem come from? So that doesn't make sense at all. But we bought into it. And subconsciously we still buy into it, and subconsciously we feel inferior because of it. If you do deductive reasoning, when you think about Christianity and the damage that is done to all people of color on the face of the earth, then you can see the affinity that people of color have for white people. If Christianity was used to enslave, to justify lynchings, to justify genocide, if Christianity was used as the basis for forcing people away from their to leave their spiritual beliefs and embrace Christianity at the point of a gun, at the barrel of a gun. If you don't embrace this, you die. If Christianity is so strong spiritually, if Christianity has the true God, then why is it that you have to force me to comply, force me to worship, force me to embrace something that's foreign to me, something that diminishes my humanness? And why is it that I'm still embracing it? It's because we have been so thoroughly indoctrinated until we believe that if we don't embrace it, we're going to hell. And if we do embrace it, we won't. So if you kill someone, you're going to hell. But that does not apply to Christians who are European, because they lynched and went back to evening service. They lynched right after church service. They had pastors attending lynchings. So if we are taught that we're going to hell if someone is killed or if a master is rebelled against, then what happens to those Europeans who lynched us. No one talks about them going to hell. We take every opportunity to show white people how much of a Christian we are. They built Sunday school rooms, we built Sunday school rooms. They bought vans, we bought vans. They built the gym, we built the gym. Everything that they did, we mimicked it as though we need their approval. If you think about what's happening internally when you do things like that, you are being submissive to the Caucasian who enslaved us. And you're worshiping this Caucasian because you are submitting to the Caucasian. You're submissive to the very doctrine that told you that you were inferior. The doctrine that told you that you were inferior is not in the Bible. The doctrine that told you you're inferior came from the lips, came from the heart of white people. And Christianity has been used to keep us in line, especially the Jesus experience of crucifixion. The Jesus experience at crucifixion was, in spite of Jesus being found innocent, he was beaten anyway. Why would the Romans beat him if there was no fault found in him? Because he was African. That's why they beat him. Racism. No one wants to talk about that in relationship to the crucifixion, because we are not supposed to discuss the truth. We are only to look at what we have been told to look at. We are only to preach what we have been told to preach. Nat Turner became a preacher, and they told him what he could preach and what he couldn't preach. All of the enslaved men who were preachers were done the same way. They were told what they could preach, and they were told what they couldn't preach. And everything they preached was designed to enhance the hold that Europeans had on the African in particular. And to this day, the African received the preaching that has been chosen by the Caucasian. Africans don't talk to you, pastors in particular, about the identity, the ethnicity of Jesus, Abraham, the rest of them. They don't talk to us about that because in their minds, they're all white. So what they actually did was deify whiteness. And that's why Jesus is a white man on the cross. Deify whiteness. That's why Moses is presented as a white man. Deify whiteness by having total control of Christianity and totally dominating how the scriptures speak. Anyone deviating from that would be an outcast, would be deemed to be demonically possessed. Even in the African church, that same thing would take place, and has taken place, if you choose to speak the truth. And the reason we don't see a major rebellion coming out of the sanctuaries of churches, African churches, is because they have been told that we are to wait till Jesus come back and everything going to be made all right. we've been told that we must wait for the rapture, not realizing that white people do not include us in the rapture. Neither do they include us in the return of Jesus, even though the scripture does not say that. In John, where it says, I will come again, John 14, again is not there. And come does not mean movement. It speaks to the idea of being one with. Excuse me. So that's the major reason that we are where we are. If racism is not put in the face of everyone in this world, especially the African, it will never be changed, because the Africans fight harder to keep America intact than white folk do. And keeping America intact, keeping Christianity intact, means keeping you enslaved. And even as I speak about this, knowing that it is the truth, there are those who are hearing my voice, and there are those who will listen later, and they feel uncomfortable about that. And the discomfort is because a African man is saying it. If it were a Caucasian man saying it, it would be received different. If Southern Baptists decided tomorrow that they're going to stand against everything racist because Jesus was a black man, every black church that got a white Jesus will remove it from its sanctuary. That tells me that worship is not the God of the Scriptures. Worship is rendered to whiteness. Service is to whiteness, because the African, regardless of how well read, regardless of how the truth can so easily be proven, the African who's presenting it has been deemed to be an outcast by whiteness. Therefore, blackness also deems it to be an outcast. Today, we are seeing the upheaval that we are experiencing day in and day out, because the lid is about to blow off of this country. The same thing that happened in Tennessee happened during Reconstruction. The difference is that the reinstatement of one came today. The reinstatement during Reconstruction never took place. And the Republicans have said if they are sent back to the House, then Nashville will lose their funding because they will freeze the money. The same things that happened during Reconstruction. And everything that was instituted by Africans during the period of Reconstruction, when we were able to serve in state legislative bodies, is being undone. Health care, public school systems, the safety nets, all of these came from Africans when they were serving in state legislative bodies. Right now, in addition to saying by virtue of their actions and words that those two African men were uppity and they needed to be put in their place, while the white woman can do and say what she chooses and still hold on to her seat. And there are those of you who are feeling that this is a racist message. It's really a message of truth. It is impossible for anyone listening at me to be a racist. Because you don't have the power to decide where someone works and where they live. You've never lynched anyone. Africans don't lynch. We have never committed genocide against the people who committed genocide against us. This experience that we are having now in this country is not an experience just for America. It is an experience for the whole world. Because America controls the whole world. And when we think about what's happening in Florida, not just the gun bill that just passed, but that in the AP classes, the Chinese culture, Russian culture, German culture, and languages, of course, Swedish culture and language, the Western European culture and language, all of those are being taught in AP classes. So why is it that nothing African, nothing African American even, can be taught in those classes? What are you trying to hide? These things are happening, and you say, why us? Because without it happening to us, we will not do what we were brought into this earth to do, and that is bring balance to humanity. We have not seen the worst of it yet. The worst is yet to come. The very subtle things that happen in this nation, we don't pay any attention to. When Ted Bundy killed all those folks, he was said to be very smart, quiet, and kept to himself. When Tamir Rice was killed, the one who killed him became the victim. They dug into Tamir Rice's family history, searching for something that was unlawful that someone did in his family. There was no one searching in Ted Bundy's family for the same thing. Any time that a white man commit a crime of murder, especially doing mass shootings, he's unstable. However, if an African does anything, it's because he's violent. He's a barbarian. He's after white people. If a white man killed a black person, then they dig into the victim background, not the one who did the killing. It's just the reverse with us. Those are the things that are given to us subliminally, and we don't think about them, and we buy into them, and we get upset when it's someone black. When it's someone white, they get a pass. And when I say we, I'm talking about this nation, this country. They get a pass. So that's what we are. That's what we are. How many times have you said or thought, if Trump was Obama, he would have been in jail? What are you actually saying? Obama is a Christian. Trump is not. So what do you think? So what are you saying? You are actually admitting that systemic racism sets a double standard. You admitting that America is the same country it was when it was formed. Racist. And a black man has no rights that a white man is inclined to is obligated to respect. Dred Scott. That hasn't changed. So when one raises a question or makes a statement about what is taking place in our midst, all of it is taking place for a reason. And we must open our eye even wider and see with a greater clarity so that we can understand the signs of the time when they are presented to us. The sign of the times now is saying that change is within reach in terms of manifestation. Change is here. These are the pains of change that we are seeing before our eyes. The experiences are pushing us in a corner, forcing us to make some decisions, whether or not we're going to hold on to the scepter of Christianity and remain enslaved, or whether we are going to become spiritual beings as we were before our spiritual beliefs were forced from us. Are we going to embrace spirituality, or are we going to embrace a religion that has done nothing but enslave, murder, imprison, all of these things? A religion that is barbaric as anything has ever been. The most barbaric religion that I know of is Christianity. I don't know a religion that killed thousands of people, forcing them to embrace Christianity. I don't know of a people other than European Christians who have committed the atrocities that have been committed under the flag of Christianity. During the uprising in Haiti in the late 1700s, started 1791, ended in 1804, during that period, the French knew that sulfur was poison, and Haiti had an abundance of sulfur. So what they did, they took thousands of people and locked them in ships off the coast of Haiti and burned sulfur and gassed them to death. Thousands. Who does that? The only other who has gassed anybody is the European. So it is no misnomer that Christian nationalist is a term that is accepted, that is embraced. Because Christian nationalism is what has been in charge of this country from its inception. The nationalism was more of the efforts put forth than the name calling of Christian nationalism. It was left off because Christianity was needed in order to keep people of color in their place. when you think about how Christianity came into being, it came from the Catholics. And they were major players in the slave trade. The Catholics ruled in Portugal in the 1500s. And the Portuguese were the first one to enter the slave trade, and it expanded to others. The reason the Portugal was so good at it is because they controlled Brazil. And that is the reason you have more people of African descent in Brazil than you do anywhere else in the world other than the continent of Africa. So I say all of this to say to you, stay the journey. You were chosen for this. This is not a journey onward Christian soldiers. No. This is not a journey to commit genocide against a people or force a people to do anything that they choose not to do. This is not a journey to get revenge on anyone. It is a journey to change the hearts of everyone. It is a journey to create in the image and likeness of Elohim. Our likeness, not our skin tone, our likeness. Image and likeness is speaking of spiritual acumen, spiritual principles. And spiritual principles have no race at all. Spiritual principles are simply that, spiritual principles, and they apply to everyone. In conclusion, to show you how manipulative things are, I said to you some time ago that Europe is not a continent because it's not surrounded by water, but yet that's what we call it because we've been told to call it that. We've also been told that Oxford is the oldest or one of the oldest universities in the world. That's not true. The first university to exist on the face of the earth was Timbuktu. And it was in the, 825? So that I'm saying that so you can see how it is necessary for us to not only second guess everything, but to do some research for our own understanding and not accept it simply because somebody told you to. You learn absolutely nothing from kindergarten through college about who you are. But you learn everything about who the European is and everything the European invented until you pick up a book and find out that is not true. I'm done. Unless there are questions. Ron?
Yes, sir. Questions, anyone? Okay. I do have a follow-up question, Pastor. Trying to see how to ask this because you went into it, but I wanna looking at the scriptures, Jesus primarily dealt with the church. And we talked about this last week. He said, give whatever belongs to Caesar, give to Caesar. It seems that our battle, it appears anyway, that it's more fragmented. Help me pull that together to see that so that we can be focused no matter what. Do you see what I'm trying to ask? There's so many all the things you just mentioned, and I look at again what was in the scriptures, how do I pull those things together and in the middle of the week not let this pull me one way or another? Is that do you understand my question? Pastor, are you there?
Simple response to that would be everything we talked about, everything we're seeing take place right now is simply pieces of the same puzzle. And that puzzle is being assembled before our eyes. And to show you how much control this country has, if you would allow me to give you an example.
Of course.
Debt. We hear everyone talk about the debt ceiling in America. America never has to pay a debt, period. All they have to do is print some more money. Why? Because every country on the face of the earth, their currency is based on the value of American currency. When America, through the World Bank or the International Monetary Fund, lends money to a country in Africa, then the African cannot pay America in African dollars. They have to pay America in American dollars, and they have to earn those dollars. But they cannot earn those dollars by raising food for themselves. They cannot earn that by doing anything for themselves. Everything they put, every seed they put in the ground must be a crop for exporting. And their food must be imported. So America controls the world with the dollar. Gaddafi, Muammar Gaddafi, why was he killed? If you look at the news report, it would tell you one thing. But if you look at the truth, you'll see something different. Libya was one of the only countries on the face of the earth who had zero debt, owed no one anything. Libya, everyone who got married received $5,000, start their life together. In Libya, everyone who wanted to go to school went free. And if they wanted to go to school abroad, Libya picked up the bill. They paid for their transportation, room and board, every single dime. How did Libya do this? Because Libya, Gaddafi had taken control of the minerals, the gold, the bauxite, everything beneath their feet. He took control of it for the benefit of the country, and the country benefited from it. And nobody cared until Muammar Gaddafi brought African nations together and said, I'm going to work with you so you can be as we are in Libya, debt-free. We are going to bring into fruition African currency. And when he said that, who killed him? Who bombed Libya? America. We cannot have any currency in Africa competing against our currency. So if you take all of those pieces that we have discussed of the puzzle and put them together, the picture that you will see is that the God of the church is money. Always has been. The God of America is money. Always has been. No other group other than Christians, especially Catholics in particular, no one can rape as many children as the Catholic priest has done and still be existing, except they have monetary control and are able to manipulate other governments. There has to be control over other governments in order for it to happen. Israel went into the mosque and beat Palestinians. And when the Palestinians retaliated, the Palestinians became terrorists and the Jews didn't. That's what you would see when you put the pieces of the puzzle together. Does that make sense, Ron?
Yes, yes, it does.
Any questions or comments? Oh, and by the way, Muammar Gaddafi was also called a terrorist. And that's the justification that was given for killing him, for having him murdered, actually. Right?
Okay. So Mel, do you feel better about your question?
I do.
Okay.
Now, let me add something to that.
Yes, sir.
When I grew up, we were told the same thing that Chris Rock was told by his mom. You don't fight in front of white folks. We always present a united front. It's gotten so bad now until we find the least thing to be upset with each other. We cannot even sit down and talk to each other without one of the two getting upset. That is internal anger. That is internal rage. That is trauma speaking out. And that trauma that has been received through the generations is being taken out on those who we are talking with, or should be talking with, or should be embracing, or should be finding a consensus as opposed to being diametrically opposed to each other. We take the smallest things and make it, or rather, and use it as an excuse for us not to come together. As long as that exists, it's going to create more. It's going to be more difficult to bring peace to the earth, because the very ones who are charged with doing that are fighting themselves as opposed to loving themselves. If you can't love yourself, you cannot love anyone else. And loving yourself is not loving only that person in the mirror. Loving yourself is loving that person that is your mirror. Embracing that reality gives us a different view of what this world should look like. We are charged with bringing harmony to the earth, to the globe. That's who we are. 10,000 years before Columbus was born, there were Africans in the Grand Canyon worshiping in a temple. There are hieroglyphics on walls in the Grand Canyon. There are sculptures of Africans in the Grand Canyon. But you've not heard of it.
Mm-mm.
That's where we are. Let's take advantage of who we are and stop being taken advantage of. I'm done.
Pastor, isn't that though what you just said? The necessity of what you just said, isn't that part of the exposure and the healing? I guess going back to what we learned in Habakkuk, it has been voiced. It has been voiced by Elohim, and the healing of it has to begin at some point. But even the lack of self-love, the hatred, isn't that part of all the exposure that we've been discussing as well?
Yes, we are the reason for the exposure more than one ways.
Yeah.
It's just only that we desire it, but we don't even look like we are cohesive until things like what happened with George Floyd, things like what happened in Tennessee. All of these things are forcing us to a place of reconciliation with each other. This is not pushing us to be us against them. No. This is pushing us to realize that we cannot bring harmony to the earth if we are fractionalized. So there are reasons beyond just our desires that exposes everything. And if we don't get a handle on understanding that our desires also causes what we're experiencing, and it pushes us to a place where you don't have a choice but to be one with yourself and each other. There is I heard this guy say that someone asked him, why is it that you don't see black people in the X Games, extreme stuff? He said, he said, why would we be exposed to, or why would we be involved in something that's risking our lives when our lives are risked every day that we get up? I don't need an adrenaline rush for risking my life in a game. I get an adrenaline rush when a policeman passes me and doesn't stop me. My gut tightens when a policeman is behind me. And when I turn right and he doesn't, I'm calm then. And I'm never safe, not even after I get home. These things only stop when harmony is brought into the earth. And harmony comes into the earth when we are not fractionalized. You say, well, all the people are not going to do what we do. No, they're not. Not at all. But the availability is in the macro. When people began to search for something better, they find it. Look at the younger generation. They talk more and understand more about the universe being an entity beyond anything that's been created. They see the universe as being God, or in our terms. They see the universe as being the source of all life and the energy force that guides their path. These are the things that are being received as we speak. And the embracing of them is what changes the society. But they are seemingly not embraced until tragedy takes place. Does that make sense, guys? I'm done.
Well, maybe that had to be voiced. I'm glad you brought it up. Maybe like other specific things that we've discussed that had to be voiced. It is something else to focus on. So
It does.
yeah.
I mean, the whole idea of gang activity is origins. The whole what is it? South LA, where crack cocaine was introduced by the CIA. All of these things, and the reporter who brought the story had an accident, lost his life. So, yes, we have to voice these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. If there are no other questions or comments, seems like a good place to pause and ponder and where we can be.
I hope
Okay, I'm sorry.
I hope it's been food for thought at least. So, anyway.
Indeed, it has been.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, it is.
Say again?
Yes, it has been and is food for thought.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I think these discussions are healthy for us. I think they need to take place. The one thing I appreciate, one of the things anyway that I appreciate about us is we can be strong or we can be vulnerable. We can come together and talk about anything and where we are and refocus. I really appreciate that. So again, I hope everyone has a thought, and hope you have a great week, and look forward to Saturday morning. Well, not Saturday morning. This Saturday is the 15th, correct? So we'll be at Greater New Faith Saturday.
Yes, it's the 15th.
Right. Yeah. So we will resume back on the air on the 16th.
707 what?
How you doing? What's break house?
The address of Great New Faith. 707.
Oh my goodness, I don't know. I wish I don't know. Kathy, do you know?
I think it's
Kathy.
707.
I can't understand your question. What are you asking?
Address of Great New Faith is 707 what street? 6?
6th Street.
Okay, 707 6th Street. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do that because someone had asked me what was the address, and I wanted to make sure that they got it. Thank you.
Sage, can you say the street address and everything again? 707 6th Street.
6th Street. SIX
Six?
Street.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what time?
Oh, 9.
Okay, come back. No, just put on Thursday. I don't need to call me.
Oh. 9. Hopefully you'll be there, but not just come when you can. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Love you guys. I hope you have a great week, and see you Saturday.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good evening, everybody.